Number 5, Georgia, 7.5-point favorites against Mississippi State. The over-under I have is 18 Gunnar Stockton pass attempts when the scoring margin is within 7 points. Does that make sense when I say that? When the scoring margin is within 7 points, like either way. So it can be, as long as it's not, an 8-point game, and that Georgia is up by 7 or Mississippi State's up by 4. That's all, within 7 points we're talking about here.
That's simple. I'm just interested by the stat that you're going to follow it with. It seems very specific.
Yes. And it's, it ended up being a little bit more ironic than I thought it was going to be. He is averaging 18 pass attempts when the scoring margin is within 7 points per game. Okay. That seems like a lot because it is. He's attempted 77 passes when Georgia is down between 1 and 7 points. It's 7th among power conference quarterbacks. In 2021-2022, when Stetson Bennett IV was Georgia's full-time starter, and he played in 30 games, 30 games it was, I think. He had 76 such attempts in those 2 combined seasons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And here we are, Gunnar Stockton already at 77 in that spot when Georgia's down between 1 and 7 points. So to recap, Gunnar Stockton already has more pass attempts this season in games that are within a touchdown in those spots than Stetson Bennett had in Georgia's 2 national title winning seasons. Okay.
So that's because there are fewer opportunities. That's more about fewer opportunities, or is it about the offense?
More about fewer opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Fewer opportunities, just way different game flow, what to expect week to week. And, it's pretty amazing to think that he's had so many of these opportunities. And why do I bring that up? Am I trying to say that Stetson Bennett wasn't clutch or that he wasn't asked to be clutch? No, that's not the case at all. He's one of the most clutch players that we've ever had in the history of college football.
He did a ton of those opportunities, I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. It just shows you like how different this game is now compared to even just a few years ago at Georgia, and what we should go in expecting week to week. There's a lot of evidence that this game, with Georgia traveling to Starkville with a 7.5-point spread, will have plenty of moments in which it's a 7-point game or less. In average scoring margin in conference play, these teams are 3rd and 14th in the SEC, totally opposite ends of the spectrum, but Georgia is at plus 7.2 points per SEC game. Mississippi State averaging minus 7 per SEC game. In home games this season, Mississippi State beat Arizona State, and it led at the 2-minute timeout against the likes
everyone
of Tennessee and Texas. Yeah, against the 2 UTs and everyone else. The Cowbells will be rocking, but will they be rocking enough to do something that has not been done in the post-Mike Leach era? You think that I'm about to say like, oh, they haven't beat Georgia in the post-Mike Leach era. They haven't beat a ranked team in the SEC. No. I am saying that in the post-Mike Leach era, Mississippi State is 0-10 in SEC games at Davis Wade Stadium. Think about that. 2 wins at Arkansas.
Oh my gosh. That is when we think about what college football is, right? And we think about, the pageantry, the tailgates, like the fraternities, sororities, going to the game. You talked about this, at your time in Indiana back before they were a football power, how it's like, oh, we're going to see each other. We're going to have a good time. We're going to kind of go home. The fact that people have just not had a good time for that long is really rough. They deserve a good time in Stark Vegas.
They do. And for what it's worth, I'm not breaking any news to the great fans of Mississippi State football. Okay. Y'all are well aware of that. Is anyone on the outside, maybe with the exception of an Ole Miss fan who likes to troll, aware of that? Because that is a long time. That is a long time to go without a home win in conference play. And we're actually recording this on the 3-year anniversary of the last time that Mississippi State won an SEC game at home. Will, $20 for you if you can name the coach that Mississippi State beat in that game in 2022.
I'm going to guess Mark Stoops. Who is it?
That's a good guess. It is the one and only Cadillac Williams.
Oh my gosh, I remember that game.
Overtime.
Yep, it sure was, man.
Yep. And post Brian Harsin era, Brian Harsin had just been fired. That was the last time that Mississippi State won an SEC home game. I mean, that's crazy, 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 crazy to think of. Technically the home SEC losing streak began during the Mike Leach era, and ironically enough, Georgia is the team that got it started nearly 3 years ago. So 11 in a row is technically where that streak is at for SEC home games. Mississippi State, um, look, I don't think that Georgia is the team that they watch that streak end against. Okay, but I can sell myself on this being a 7-point game, like we talked about, wherein the Bulldogs, the home Bulldogs, cover because they can do some of the things that Tennessee did to put pressure on Georgia downfield. So I'm thinking like Georgia trails 14-10 at half. Cowbell's rocking once again, and Gunnar Stockton makes big time plays in those moments. I feel like a broken record. I say that every single week with these Georgia games. That's how they're all playing out. I think Georgia fights back and wins this one 28-21.
Yeah, it's almost like the secret government that's in control of college football is just making things as entertaining as possible at this point, because that's the only through line in some of these situations that we can see, that you're going to get a close game, right? Like there are teams, and Mississippi State is such a great example of this, of they played up or down to their competition. And I do want to say, you talk about the home losing streak. As all things are kind of becoming, that's also a pretty sad Arkansas stat, right? Where it's like, okay, well, you did beat Arkansas on the road twice. You went into their building, but yet you couldn't win at home. Yeah, I mean, I would think that in this game, and I feel like I've said this before a couple of times with Mississippi State, and I remember saying this about Carson Beck last year, where it's like, hey, you need to run your offense, or not Carson Beck. It was Carson Beck, and it was also the Texas game for them against Mississippi State, where I was like, this is the game where you need to be in control and run your offense and do things your way. Georgia's been a little bit different, though, because it's not that they haven't been able to get on track on offense. It's almost like their defense needs to find that spark and that identity and play with like a little bit of, I hate to say pride. They've been a very strategic, smart defense, but they haven't had the game records like we talked about. They haven't had the big plays. So I would look for, against this offense, Georgia to take a lot more risks. I think this is a great game for Georgia to send a lot of like exotic blitz packages and get their guys feeling momentum defensively, because this has proven to be an offense that can't really burn you. And when they do, you always have a chance to come back. So I think that now that Georgia is this offensive football team, a la kind of the end of Stetson Bennett's career, it's like, well, if we're not going to be a great, 10-0 defense, we might as well just have fun out there and try to squish this team and crush their will. So I hope we get kind of a more free, fun Georgia defense and then make a statement in this game. Let's look for about 3 sacks, I would say, in this one, couple turnovers. And I actually think Georgia pulls away early in this one and controls this game just because I think they've had enough stress. I think at some point, if Georgia's going to be this great team that we've talked about, they need to pull away in a game like this. And again, Mississippi State, like we said, has had the history of keeping things close. But if you're Georgia, at some point, it's like, we can't be close with everybody. Our backups are getting tired, man. We gotta just take a chill pill here.
I do agree with you that I think Georgia will view this matchup that way. The one thing I'll push back on, you said Mississippi State doesn't have the guys that can burn you. Brennan Thompson can burn you. He can absolutely burn you. He might be the fastest player, not just in the SEC, but in all of college football. The Oklahoma transfer has been kind of exactly what Blake Shapen needed as a downfield target to stretch the field, to allow this Jeff Lebby offense to operate in the way that it needs to. And I do think that there's risk in him doing the things that in a very different way from a physical standpoint in the way that they're built, but doing some of the things that Chris Brazzell did in that Tennessee game, where you're like, man, how is this guy in single coverage on a safety over the top? Like, what are they doing here? And you would think that ideally you're trying to attack Blake Shapen in this offensive line that's had issues. He's had frustration with this issue. Like, go back to that A&M game, albeit against an A&M defensive line that can absolutely get after the quarterback, but where he's just like, man, I have no time. I don't know what I'm doing. And the Kamario Taylor move that Jeff Lebby has been making in some of these games kind of feels like his way of trying to combat some of that and to get a little bit of that spark going. I would expect to see that in a game like this. You're going to try and do all these different things to be able to trick Georgia, because let's be honest, you're going to have to trick Georgia. You're going to have to hit on some of these chunk plays, some of these busting coverage, if you're going to be able to beat this team, which has been good, but not necessarily great. I keep pulling up the Max Olson stop rate and expecting one day I'm going to see Georgia this season. And that day has not come yet. At least I don't think it has, at least in the top 20. And it's bizarre, but you have to be able to rely on kind of some of those offensive principles that have worked for you so far. But yeah, I still trust Georgia. I trust Georgia to be able to find a way. But if Mississippi State all of a sudden wins this game to clinch bowl eligibility, They're not building a Jeff Lebby statue, but Jeff Lebby will have gone from potential hot seat going into year 3 to, hey, show me that extension. I just tripled our win total. I got us to the postseason. That's what's at stake for him.
I'll be looking forward to the Bulldog social media post if that happens. Yes, and I would just say, like, to clean that up, like, you're right. They do have some dudes on offense, but it's more about finding that consistency. And I can kind of see 2 game scripts here, right, where Mississippi State is known to kind of turtle in his moments. It's that it has looked good when it's looked good, but when they're anti-Georgia is exactly what they are. They're anti-Georgia. When it doesn't matter, they're awesome, except against Arkansas, which, like we said, doesn't count. And so, like, they've been in these moments, and then kind of at the end of these games where it's time to pull ahead or to answer, they start to kind of turtle, like I said. And we've seen the changes in the offense, and I think I can give Lebby credit for some of that stuff. So, like, if these teams stay the same as they have, it's a back and forth game where Georgia just puts their foot on their neck late. Whereas if I'm Georgia, I'm like, I'm trying to avoid that. Like, we shouldn't be in a back and forth game with Mississippi State. So therefore, I'm going to take more chances, because you're right. Like, they have some of those dudes, but if you're Georgia, you got to at some point trust the back end of your defense and go, hey, we'll give up one here or there, but we're Georgia,
Agreed. Mississippi State winning this game would totally shake up the SEC picture, but don't quite think it happens in this one.